Welcome everyone to the Red Zone. Today I will be demonstrating an external module called Validation Tweaker. Be going over the documentation, the configuration, and then just to demonstrate it. So with all external modules, they can be located under the External Module tab by managing. You'll click on Enable a Module. In this instance, as I mentioned, this is the Validation Tweaker version 1.1.5. Since I have enabled it, it will not populate here, but once you do find it, you'll enable it. We're going to be going over the documentation. I won't bore you with reading it. I will actually be giving you the full breakdown and the synopsis of it. And as I mentioned, the configuration. So with this validation tweaker, there's a total of 5 areas that you can customize, where we're going to be going through each one. The first being the required field validation to pass on to forms, just like any validation that you enable. But what makes this external module interesting is you have the option to actually exempt specific forms to actually continue on. So in this instance, we're going to be enabling the validation enforcement. For the specific form, it's going to be in the demographics. When you exempt it, though, you do have a couple options. You can exempt from all required field validations, exempt from value validations. But for this purpose, we're going to do exempt for all validations. The third option or third customization is going to be don't allow any entries in the future after the current date. We're going to be enabling that. That can be beneficial for date of birth, diagnosis. Terry, did you have something?
Me? No.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And then the other one is don't allow entries of dates in the past. Unfortunately, this is only enabled for administrators. However, there is a workaround for other users, and its recommendation is to use the dynamic min-max range limit to be used instead for this instance. The other is provide options to surveys continue regardless of the survey fields have been completed. And then the last one is exempt specific forms from the survey to continue option. So we're going to, create a little bypass, but we're still going to enforce the validation for the medical history. And then now we're going to kind of demonstrate how those all tie in. So as I mentioned in this form, we're going to just fill out a couple of these. But for the sake of this purpose, we're going to bypass not filling these out. So this is actually creating that exemption to continue even though some forms have been enforced. The other is now allowing any dates of the future to be entered in. So we'll first kind of demo what that message will look like when someone does enter a date in the future. It does let you know that it's outside of the range, being the 22nd, but this value is admissible and you may wish to double check it. So we'll go ahead and correct that. Now we're going to demonstrate so you can kind of see what it looks like when they do continue and the form has not been submitted completely. So it lets the user know that there has been something that has not been completely filled out, the phone number, gender, and age, but we're given the option to continue anyway. It's giving us another warning that we have not completed it. Do we want to continue? Yes, we'll go ahead and do so. So now we're going to have the demonstration of, yes, we bypassed that prior one, but this one I did set it up so we cannot bypass without entering data. We'll give you the standard error message that you have to complete this data prior to continuing. So we're going to yes. And this is also demonstrating of no future dates. And this can be beneficial for something with diagnose. It's highly unlikely someone's going to be diagnosed in the future. And again, that same instance would apply, gives them an error that this is outside of the range. Let's correct that. Submit it. And that's this external module. So this can be very, very beneficial for a study that's working with older generation or even someone that's less tech savvy. It kind of gives them the capability to continue a survey, even though it hasn't been fully completed, giving, the REDCap user the capability to go back, work with the participant to get that survey filled out. It is a neat way to kind of bypass those validations, but yet still completing that survey. And with that, do you guys have any questions?
Okay, excuse me. I'm just checking something real quick because I think I have a question and a couple of comments if nobody else has question. So can you go to your demographics instrument in design and then for date of birth, you have a tag on. Okay, so you have a validation on there. You're using the validation tweaker to not allow something after. But if you could use the action tag, click on,
Allow future. You could, yes.
no, click on action tag, please. And then select the force min max. Scroll down. Yeah, there you go. And then close that. I'd like to see what that does because um, there's other ways of forcing well, at least letting you know that you don't want to enter a date after a certain time period. Okay, so close. Can you save this? Can you submit this?
Mhm.
I don't. Okay, so okay, my question was to make sure that the module that you applied, the validation tweaker, does not conflict in any way with the force min max. So the value of the force min max is a lot of people will put on like you can do the same thing in the date of birth by just typing today into the field for end date or for, let me just see what that. So the maximum, you could just enter today in the maximum, but you get the same result that you got with your validation tweaker, which
Yes.
is that you're allowed to there's the option if you don't use force min max, then you get the message that you must provide, but you can kind of bypass that. And I think that somewhat defeats the purpose. So if you remove the force min max, save that. Let's kind of look at what happens now with if you enter into that. Okay, so it's outside but admissible. So that's the difference. So I like the validation tweaker because I think most people don't necessarily know they can use the today value in that maximum field for, a date or any kind. You could use it in a field that is a number and you want to have a maximum for it.
Mhm.
But in most cases, to me, you want to make sure that people can't exceed the value you put in the maximum. And that's what the validation tweaker allows, just like, normal, one of the best features in the action tags I think they added was that force min max so that it ensures that no one can enter a date. And this is great when you're talking about like date lab work might be collected, or a date something was entered on a survey, you definitely don't want somebody to be able to select something after today. So the force min max is great. In this case, I just wanted to make sure that it didn't conflict somehow with the external module, which you're proving it did not. So
Yeah,
that's,
and one thing I did forgot to mention, Terry, is that there is also on the notes as well as the documentation. It does state though for future dates, you can technically override that by just using the allow future action tag for that instance. So that's also kind of the neat thing, like you were mentioning about the validation tweak. You can kind of customize it, bypassing certain filters for that.
so, all right. I saw this and I asked you to demo it, and because I thought it was kind of neat and had some value for some people that are uh, building their instruments. And you know the the problem I have with it on some level, and I had you do it because I didn't have time to really do it the way you did it, which was great. That's what I wanted to see, is what you built here. But I scratch my head about, why do you require a field and then say you don't need it? I'm not even sure, why did you bother to say that you must provide the value um, if you're going to let them bypass it. So it for those of you who have experienced this before, if you're entering the data into a data entry field, so you're not a survey, you're just logged into RedCap and you're entering data, you can always save the data that you've entered, and it will let you know that you failed to enter data into a required field, but you can always save it because you're in a data entry mode. But surveys, because you don't have an opportunity necessarily to connect with whoever's filling out a survey, it won't let you submit unless a value has been entered for the required field. So again, I scratch my head about what the value is of this, but I wanted to be people to be aware of it, and I wanted us to do a video of it, and we can post it on our YouTube site. So thanks, George. I appreciate what you did.
Thank you.